Should peptides be cycled? You can buy my workout programs as well as other merchandise in my webshop, link in the description under this video.
So there's a lot of controversy around this, and there's different schools of thought. And there is definitely science, and I'm going to let Michael take that because he's great at it. But from a philosophical perspective, again, it's the same thing as saying I'm going to go from here to California and never taking my foot off the accelerator, right? There's a limit to how much you can stimulate before your body, kind of like insulin resistance, right? Your cells are just not listening, right? They're not listening to the response. And so since there's some controversy, we just say, hey, listen, we'd rather you take a short break. We know that you love it. We know that you're getting great results. This is not the end of the world. You can take a 4 to 6 week break or just switch to a different peptide that stimulates, your genes through a different pathway. And that way you're not stimulating the same receptor and run into the possibility of oversaturating, where now you're not responding the same. The medication is not, you need more medication, more time, and you're spending more money or wasting the money because it's not working. So we'd rather you take a short-term break. The only one that I think, BPC is a good one that you can maintain because you can switch the delivery form, right? If you switch from injectable to oral, it stimulates
one works more on the gut,
right?
One works more on the systemic.
So it's a little different, right? But if it's not a good idea, and look, I've seen it personally on some labs. We don't have enough data to tell you one way or the other with 100% of certainty. But what I can tell you is that I've seen guys that have been on peptide therapy for a year and then they just stop seeing the results, right? So I say, hey, listen, take a break on that peptide. Let's go a different route.
No, or for example, look, the truth is I've done a lot of research on that and looked at it. We don't know of the research that says you have to do them every other day, 5 days a week. You need to take a specific break.
Right.
There's no studies that I know of, and most clinics will do 5 days on, 2 days off, just like growth hormone, maybe to save them some money, to extend the medication. But in reality, I'm going with the science of the medication. For example, Sermorelin had CJC without the DAC, which animal studies show that they develop cancer, the rats. So yeah, it's on paperwork really nice to inject once a week, but it's not very useful in a human case.
In a practical manner.
So CJC without DAC has a 30-minute half-life. Sermorelin 11 to 12, IGF-1 20 to 30, MK677 4 to 6 hours, Tesamorelin 26 to 38, Ipamorelin roughly 2 hours. So the way I like to think about it is like this. I know this is a really bad analogy, but it works. So, when you flush down the toilet, the water goes down and you got to give it time to refill.
Right.
Same thing here. If you understand the half-life of the medication and there's up to 5 cycles to it until it's fully flushed out of your body, let's just give it around 3 hours if we're using like Sermorelin per se or CJC, right? So this is where Dr. William Seeds will use protocols of CJC, even IPA, 2 to 4 times a day. So kind of see it like this. You inject. If the half-life is 30 minutes, let's say what he really recommends is 3 hours. So meaning if you inject, the levels drop. You're flushing all that growth hormone into the body. If I inject an hour and a half later, I'm not going to get additional benefits because the tank hasn't filled up again.
Right.
So you got to flush the tank, give it at least 3 hours before you have that next injection to have the same pulsatile growth hormone release in the body. Mm-hmm. So my point of this, if you understand the half-life of the medication, you can do it several times and you can do it without taking a break as long as you know how to use them properly and you're seeing the benefits.
Right.
So there's no jury out there saying this is exactly how to take it. The best recommendation, and if you have the studies, please send it to us. We would love to look at them and see how they're sequenced exactly, but nobody knows. I guess Big Pharma, they haven't had the ability to do enough research to know exactly this is how it's done. But to be on the safe side, as I said, if you understand the half-life, you can do it 2 to 3 times a day. We like to take oral, for example, if you use something like Tesamorelin, take a 4-week break because you just really flush the system and really over push the system to produce. I think Tesamorelin can increase your IGF-1 by 181%. That was information by Tailor Made Pharmacy back in the days. So something like that, that's really strong, you want to take a break. let me give you the clinical studies on it that I have seen, the little data that I've seen. Sermorelin, you can take 6 months to see clinical benefits. CJC, 3 months to get clinical benefits like the deep sleep, collagen production, better mood, better fat burning, improve on muscle synthesis. When we're talking about IGF-1R3, the studies show don't use more than 6 weeks because the levels are going to plateau. So, and it's really strong as well. It's basically a polypeptide. It's a synthetic form.
And with testosterone, it really reaches its peak at 3 weeks, and then it starts to kind of. So we actually, there's a lot of people.
Wait, one more thing. Like, for example, MK677, used for people that have an ectomorph body that can't build muscle. Phenomenal peptide to use. It increases your growth hormone by 55%, but shouldn't be used more than 12 weeks because it can have irreversible brain damage. I forgot. It's called involution of the brain. It basically neurological issues. So you have to understand these things. And then
so for example, that one, the minimum, the maximum required dose is 90 days. We only use it 60 days.
We don't want to push
just to be safe. Just to be safe, we do it 30 days less. And a lot of people will prescribe testosterone for 8 to 12 weeks, but we don't like to do it more than 6 weeks because I'll tell you one thing. Most people that I've seen on testosterone over 6 weeks, they start to develop inflammation, right? And then they say, they get all scared. So why push them over that threshold? There's no need.
Sure. So one thing that we do, they'll do 2 or 12 weeks, depending on the peptide, then take a month break or switch over to something like Dr. Mark's Gordon product, the secretotropin, something that's more naturally based, that's just helping your body induce it rather than pulsating it. Or we like to use a product called Celergen, which is basically oral stem cells from herring and salmon fish that basically convert into whatever the body needs. Yeah. If this is a patient that we've changed their life and they're like, what else do you guys have in store for me? So we like to get, sequence them on and off depending on the therapy they're doing.
Yeah, a lot of times, I have some guys that are, they started baseline. And again, it's strategy, right? We start you off with the basic. You did great there. You love it. Okay, let's graduate you here. And then they do well there. And then they graduate to the next step. And a lot of times I have to tell them, hey, listen, you've been doing a lot of
they just want to do everything.
You've been doing a lot of building. You've been great. You're phenomenal. Your physique is completely transformed. Let's do a regenerative kind of therapy, right? Let's focus on some IV infusions, maybe Celergen, which is phenomenal. Stop with the growth hormone stuff. Let's just regenerate your cells now, right? So it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle of things. It's a journey.
This video is sponsored by Mizumi, the #1 pick for men on TRT. Shop now at Mizumi's using the link in the description under this video.